Hey everybody, Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com to talk about the greatest stipulation matches in wrestling history. There have been a lot of gimmick matches and different types of matches created over the years, and the ones I'm going to talk about today are some of the most memorable and have led to some of the all-time classic moments in wrestling history. Let's start off with one of the oldest stipulation matches in history, the cage match. The cage match goes back for decades, way before WWE, going back to the territorial days of wrestling. Cage matches would be the final match, usually, of a feud, a way to settle a score. You have several matches. Some of these matches have interference, and the cage match would be designed to keep out the interference and have the competitors settle their feud once and for all. And there have been so many bloody and violent cage matches over the years, and they've always been extremely entertaining and usually at the top of a card, and many titles have been decided in cage matches. And there have been lots of variations of the cage match as well. First off, the Hell in a Cell, of course. Perhaps the most famous cage match of all time was the very first Hell in a Cell match, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, with Kane making his debut. And neck and neck with that in terms of popularity would be the Undertaker versus Mick Foley cage match, the famous King of the Ring match where Mick Foley, as Mankind, was thrown off the top of the cage, and then he came back up to the top and then got chokeslammed through the cage. One of the most historic moments in wrestling history. And then you have the War Games match, going back to the NWA and then WCW, where you would have teams competing inside the cage, and you would actually have two rings and two cages, two teams going at it, and it would go down to pinfall or submission at the end, submission. Another classic match. And then you have the Elimination Chamber, which is different from your usual type of cage match. You have the 6 different panels, the glass panels where you have 6 competitors, one in each pod, and you have the chains and the steel all mixed in together. So it was a very cool concept, the Elimination Chamber. I would say the cage match is the all-time greatest stipulation match. Next to the cage match would be the ladder match. The first ladder match that really caught the attention of the mainstream wrestling public was at WrestleMania 10, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon. That really set the bar for future ladder matches and made the ladder match something that people wanted to see. And there have been lots of variations of the ladder match. The TLC match, where you add tables and chairs into the mix. The Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian, they made the TLC match famous. And then you have the Money in the Bank match. Money in the Bank started at WrestleMania 21. The idea where you have a ladder match, and instead of a championship being held above the ring and you have to climb a ladder to get it, instead you have to get a contract. And if you get the contract, you can cash it in for a title match anytime you want for a 1-year period. So, that was a very cool concept and a different way to have a ladder match without an actual championship being involved. Next up is the Battle Royal, another stipulation/gimmick match that has been around for decades. It's been around for a very long time, where you have sometimes 20 competitors, sometimes even 30 competitors in the ring to start, and then you eliminate one person at a time by throwing them over the top rope and their feet hitting the floor, and that process would continue until only one person remains. So the Battle Royal was always very exciting to watch because you have just so many competitors in the ring and so much going on. And WCW expanded on that regular Battle Royal idea and came up with a 3-ring, 60-man Battle Royal, World War III. And perhaps that was a bit overkill, just too much to try to digest when you're watching. They had to have like 3 different screens. And you're trying to watch all this stuff happening at once. That was too much. And something similar to a Battle Royal, but kind of the opposite, was the Royal Rumble, where you would start off with 2 competitors, and then every 90 seconds a new competitor would come to the ring. And the same rule where you have to throw people out of the ring and both feet touch the floor. And people would keep coming out until all 30 competitors have entered the match, and then the last man standing is the winner. So the Royal Rumble has been one of the big 4 WWE pay-per-views, and it's a big deal every year. It's the beginning of the WrestleMania season, the kickoff to WrestleMania. The Iron Man match, the first one that really got people talking, was Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. I mean, there had been marathon matches before, but Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, the first 60-minute Iron Man match in WWE on pay-per-view at WrestleMania, that set the bar. And then you had several other classic Iron Man matches: Triple H and The Rock, Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle, John Cena and Randy Orton, so on and so forth. There have been a lot of very memorable Iron Man matches over the years where the competitors go out there and they really have to, have the endurance and go out there and perform for 60-plus minutes. Falls Count Anywhere. These matches have always been a lot of fun over the years, where you can pin a guy or apply a submission anywhere in the building. And there's also been the empty arena matches, which are very similar. But I think the Falls Count Anywhere matches are more exciting because you have the audience there, and you have the wrestlers going out in the crowd and brawling, and you never know where it's going to end up. I mean, sometimes they end up in the men's bathroom. I remember Chris Benoit and Kevin Sullivan had some really memorable Falls Count Anywhere matches. And, Mick Foley, with his different personas, had a lot of great matches. The empty arena match with The Rock. Those matches were always very exciting. The Last Man Standing match. This went beyond your typical pinfall or submission match, where you would have to make your opponent unable to answer a 10 count. So usually these matches would be very intense, with both guys trying to beat the hell out of the other one so badly that they cannot make that 10 count. And there have been some very memorable ones over the years. I mean, I remember Triple H and Randy Orton having a great Last Man Standing match. And the only thing I don't like about this stipulation is when the match ends in a no contest. And it's happened quite a few times where both competitors are unable to answer a 10 count. I always thought that was a bit of a cheap finish, and fans want to see a decisive winner. So beyond that, the matches were always usually very good. Submission match. Submission matches have always been very entertaining. The one that stands out the most to me is the Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart match at WrestleMania 13, the match that really put Steve Austin on the map. And, submission/I quit. There have been interesting finishes over the years where, like for Royal Rumble 99, as an example, when The Rock used a pre-recorded message of Mankind saying "I quit" and using that as a tactic to win the match. So the submission match has given companies like WWE an opportunity to do something unique and different. And next up here is the First Blood match. An interesting stipulation that came into play during the Attitude Era. I remember the King of the Ring 1998 match with Steve Austin and Undertaker, and Steve Austin and Kane. Undertaker got involved in that match and ended up costing Austin the title. And those matches, very violent because you're trying to bust open your opponent. So you're using chairs, you're using weapons. So it's very intense. And finally, the Hardcore / No Holds Barred match. Basically the same thing, where there are no rules. You can use any weapons that you want. As Batista would say, weapons are not only welcomed, they are allowed. And, there have been some classic hardcore matches over the years, and companies like WWE and WCW even came up with their own hardcore titles to play up on the whole hardcore stipulation. And, they had the hardcore 24/7 rule. ECW really made the hardcore matches famous, and then it carried on to WWE, WCW, TNA, and all the rest of the promotions. All right, that'll do it for my thoughts on the greatest stipulation matches of all time. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest in WWE and TNA. Thanks for watching.